Chapter 2. Sankhya Yoga. The cause of Arjuna's grief. Sanjay said, seeing Arjuna, overwhelmed with grief, with tear-filled, distressed eyes, Lord Madhusudana, Sri Krishna, spoke the following words. Sri Bhagwan said, O Arjuna, how has this ignorance arisen in you at this moment of crisis? Such behavior is neither adopted by wise people, nor does it lead to the attainment of heaven or fame. Therefore, O Arjuna, do not become impotent. This does not befit you. O conqueror of enemies, give up this petty weakness of the heart and stand up for battle. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, O destroyer of enemies, how can I shoot arrows at Bhishma Pitamaha and Dronakarya, who are venerable persons? I would rather beg for alms in this world than kill these great souls who are my gurus. By killing my gurus, all I would get is blood-soaked material pleasures in this world. We do not know if fighting this war is good for us, or if we will win or they will win. I do not want to live by killing the sons of Dhritarashtra. Still, they stand before us on the battlefield. Being overwhelmed by weakness and confusion about my duty, I ask you, please tell me what is the best course of action for me. I am your disciple, and I have surrendered to you. Please give me guidance. I see no remedy to overcome the sorrow caused by my senses. Even attaining the highest position of Indra in heaven or becoming a ruler on earth, I see no way to alleviate this sorrow. Sanjay said, O king. Seeing Arjuna, who had conquered sleep, distressed by his grief, Lord Krishna, the master of the senses, said to him with a smile. Sri Bhagwan said, O Arjuna, you are grieving for those who are not to be grieved for, and you are speaking like a learned person. The wise do not grieve either for the living or the dead. It has never been the case that I or you or all these kings did not exist in the past, and it will never happen that we do not exist in the future. Just as the soul passes from childhood to youth to old age in the same body, in the same way, the soul leaves the body at death and enters into another body. The wise are not deluded by such changes. O son of Kunti, the pleasure and pain arising from the contact of the senses with their objects are temporary, like the cycles of heat and cold. Therefore, you must endure them, O Bharata, with a steady mind. O best of men, a person who is unaffected by pain and pleasure, who maintains equanimity in both circumstances, is certainly fit for liberation. Those who have realized the truth know that the material body is perishable, but the soul, Atma, is imperishable. The soul is indestructible and cannot be harmed by any weapon. Therefore, O son of Bharata, fight, for the body is perishable, and the soul within it is indestructible. The soul is not killed, nor can it be killed. Anyone who thinks that the soul kills or is killed is ignorant. The soul is eternal and never born or destroyed. It is beyond birth and death. The soul cannot be killed, even if the body is killed. O son of Kunti, a person who understands that the soul is eternal, indestructible, and beyond birth and death, cannot harm anyone or be harmed by anyone. Just as a person discards old clothes and puts on new ones, in the same way the soul discards old bodies and enters into new ones. The soul cannot be cut by weapons, burned by fire, wetted by water, or dried by wind. The soul is imperishable, unchangeable, and cannot be destroyed. It is the same at all times and cannot be affected by any external force. The soul is invisible, inconceivable, and unchanging. Knowing this well, you should not grieve for the body. O mighty-armed Arjuna, even if you think the soul is always born and always dies, you should still not grieve for it. Death is certain for the one who is born, and birth is certain for the one who dies. Therefore, you should not grieve for what is inevitable. O Bharata, all living beings were unmanifest before birth, and they will become unmanifest again after death. They only manifest in the middle, so there is no need to grieve. Some see the soul as amazing, others describe it as amazing, and others hear about it and are amazed, but no one understands it fully. O Bharata, the soul cannot be killed by anyone, so you have no reason to grieve for anyone. O Arjuna, as a kshatriya, you should not hesitate to fight for the sake of duty. There is no higher duty for a kshatriya than to engage in battle. O Partha, those kshatriyas who engage in battle for the sake of duty are fortunate, for they open the doors of heaven. But if you refuse to fight this righteous war, you will lose your fame and neglect your duty, resulting in sin. People will talk about your disgrace, and for an honorable person, though these people, disgrace is worse deluded than by death. greed, The do great not see the warriors who harm once caused by the
respected you will
destruction
now
of the
consider
family,
you as
we,
insignificant,
who understand the
seeing you as a
consequences,
coward who has
should
retreated from the
consider how to
battlefield.
avoid this sin. When a family's dharma is destroyed, its eternal traditions are ruined, and when dharma is destroyed, unrighteousness spreads in the family. O Krishna, when unrighteousness increases, the women of the family become corrupt, and from that, unwanted offspring are born. From the increase of such children, a family is doomed to hellish existence. The ancestors of fallen families, whose rituals of offering pindas and water cease, fall down. Through the sins of these unwanted children, the eternal family dharma and kasta dharma are destroyed. Those whose family dharma is destroyed have to live in hell for an indefinite period. O Krishna, it is truly astonishing that we, knowing all this, are still willing to commit a great sin, motivated by the desire for kingdom and pleasures, and ready to kill our loved ones. If I, unarmed and unwilling to fight, am killed by the sons of Dhritarashtra in this battle, then such a death would be more honorable for me. Sanjaya said. Thus, deeply sorrowful and dejected, Arjuna laid down his bow and arrows and sat at the back of his chariot. This marks the end of the first chapter, the Dharma Karma Yudha Yoga, in the Bhagavad Gita, the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. Your enemies will criticize your strength and call you weak, and that will be even more painful for you. O son of Kunti, if you die in battle, you will go to heaven, and if you win, you will enjoy the kingdom of the earth. Therefore, stand firm and fight. Forget about the results of success, loss, victory, or defeat. Fight for the sake of fighting, and by doing so, you will be free from sin. O son of Pritha, I have described to you the wisdom of Sankhya Yoga. Now listen to the path of Nishkama Karma Yoga, through which, by acting with this wisdom, you will free yourself from the bondage of actions. By performing actions with this mindset, there is no harm and no fault. Even a little progress in this yoga protects you from the great fear of birth and death. O Kuru Nandana, in Nishkama Karma Yoga, the intellect is focused on one point, but for those who are not firmly determined, their intellect is scattered in many directions. O son of Pritha, those who are attached to the ritualistic words of the Vedas, desiring heaven, good birth, and material wealth, say there is nothing superior to these. People who are attached to sensory pleasures and worldly wealth are those whose intellect is not firmly focused on the Supreme. They lack the determination for the true path. O Arjuna, the Vedas primarily describe the three gunas of nature. Therefore, rise above these three gunas and remain free from the dualities of joy and sorrow without any concerns, and dedicate yourself to the Supreme. Once a person has attained complete knowledge of Brahman, they no longer require the Vedas, as they have attained the ultimate goal. Your duty is to perform actions, but you do not have any control over the results. Therefore, you should not consider yourself the cause of the results, nor should you be attached to inaction. O Dhananjaya, perform your duties without attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity in all circumstances is called the wisdom of the yoga of equanimity. O Dhananjaya, through this equanimity, you will be free from all negative actions and will reach the Supreme by surrendering to the divine consciousness. Through the yoga of equanimity, the wise and enlightened ones, renouncing the fruits of actions, attain liberation and the supreme position, freed from the cycle of birth and death. When your intellect crosses the delusion of worldly desires, you will be free from all attachment to worldly pleasures and will become established in supreme wisdom. When your intellect becomes steady and unwavering after hearing the teachings of the Vedas, you will realize the supreme truth and attain divine knowledge. Arjuna said, O Kasava, what are the characteristics of a person with steady wisdom? How do they speak? How do they sit? And how do they walk? Sri Bhagwan said, O Partha, when a person renounces all desires arising from sensory pleasures and finds contentment in the soul, they are said to be established in pure consciousness. A person whose mind remains undisturbed in the face of pain, who does not desire happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, is called a sage with steady wisdom. A person who is not elated by good fortune, nor despises bad fortune, their intellect is steady in knowledge. Just as a tortoise withdraws its limbs from all directions, a person who withdraws their senses from the sense objects becomes steady in consciousness. When a person has completely withdrawn their senses from the objects of desire, the attachments of the mind also disappear, and they attain the supreme consciousness. O Arjuna, the senses are so powerful that even a wise person trying to control them can be forcibly overwhelmed by them. One who has fully controlled the senses and has established their consciousness in me is said to possess steady wisdom. Contemplating on the objects of the senses leads to attachment, and from attachment arises desire. When desires are obstructed, they lead to anger. Anger leads to complete delusion, which causes the loss of memory. The loss of memory results in the destruction of intellect, and the destruction of intellect leads to the fall of a person. However, a person who is free from all attachment and who controls their senses can receive the full grace of God. By the grace of the divine, all sorrow comes to an end, and the steady-minded person attains complete peace. A person who is not in control of their senses has no steady intellect, no stable mind, and cannot attain peace. How can such a person find happiness? Just as the wind drives a boat off course on water, the wandering senses, when attached to objects, divert the mind of the person. O mighty armed one, when a person has mastered the senses and they are under their control, their intellect remains steady. The intellect of a person who sees all beings in the same way. When desires and all attachments are relinquished, such a person enters the supreme state of peace. O Partha, this is the spiritual path, and anyone who follows it, even in the final moments of life, will attain liberation. Thus ends the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, entitled Sankhya Yoga, in the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna.